Have you ever seen a tour that had a band lineup that made you immediately confused as to how that happened? That's what this video is all about. The odd pairings of rock bands together in hopes to bring in different audiences. Sometimes they work well, sometimes it fails miserably, and sometimes it just seems completely random. I've seen some of these tours as they've happened, I've been made aware of some of these, and even so, I'm sure there are many more than 10. So leave a comment with your favorite weird rock tour lineup featuring bands that do not belong together. Also, less than half the people watching these videos are subscribed. Just hit the subscribe button, everybody. It's free. I promise it doesn't cost you anything. This video is not a top 10, no ranking, just a casual list of tours I found over the years that either gave me a chuckle or made me question labels and booking agents. You know how these videos work. Let's get to it. Starting off with an amazing combination that I never would have thought happened had I not done research for this, but around 2009, Coheed and Cambria were doing big things and it caught the ear of none other than Heaven and Hell with the legend Mr. Ronnie James Dio. Hence, it was super prog rock, space alien, comic book loving Coheed and Cambria supporting several former members of Black Sabbath in a legendary supergroup from a support slot. And it's not just Coheed going on tour with Dio, but Iommi and Butler in Heaven and Hell as well. Claudio was singing about aliens and space fights while Dio and company were prepping him back. Aside from that probable imposter syndrome that would have come over anyone, the crowds of the tour were not there for Coheed, but Sanchez and company apparently won him over. It's a weird lineup because classic heavy metal fans do not like anything new, especially when it ventures out wildly to what Coheed and Cambria were doing in the 2000s emo scene. But the magic of heavy music brought this together along with the spectacle of a supergroup. Less than 1 year later, we lost Dio to cancer. That would be the end of Heaven and Hell, and we can at least remember Dio's last big tour on a unique space ride with Coheed. That proves weird lineups can work. The most recent entry on this list, and one that saw immediate memes flood social media. Five Finger Death Punch, known for having a bro-tastic Kyle-filled audience, are going to team up with the ever-controversial Marilyn Manson and his army of die-hard allegation deniers. Fun tour, right? Am I the only one who thinks this could be a recipe for disaster? Both Five Finger and Manson have reputations of being difficult on the road due to personal and professional reasons, but then adding each of these groups' well-defined fan bases together in the dead of summer. Really? As of now, it's still planned to be a full show with half of the pit being 40 to 50-year-old divorced ex-cops ramming headfirst into 20 to 30-something leather-wearing Manson fans who love to scream at people. Nope, can't imagine a bad situation happening at these live events. I do think the falling popularity of both names, along with the negative press over the years for both Five Finger Death Punch, along with Manson and his many lawsuits and settlements and charges, some of which he already admitted to, this led to the desperation of the tour lineup. I don't want to go to this. You know when you see an idea on paper and you can tell exactly what the idea was aiming for and why they thought it could work? That was me when I heard the news of Blink-182 and Lil Wayne. That was the name of the tour also, Blink-182 and Lil Wayne Tour. Didn't even have a fun title in 2019. The odd lineup was the most spectacular part of this somewhat underwhelming tour, especially underwhelming for Lil Wayne, who was quite open about the tour not being what he expected or even wanted only a few dates into the tour when he saw a sea of pop-punk millennials wanting to sing along to What's My Age Again. One of Lil Wayne's frustrations was on the mic during a performance in Virginia.
Hold up, Kool. I just want the people to know, if you're wondering, please forgive me, but I am so not used to performing to a crowd and there's not too many, like still phone. That's not my swag. I'm not sure how long I'm gonna be able to do this tour, but make some noise for Blink-182 for including me anyway. This might be my last night though. Let's go.
On paper, this tour could have brought two audiences together to enjoy both performances and genres of music, and in turn, boosted both Blink-182 and Lil Wayne to keep their already massive popularity. I'm pretty sure that's what labels and management hoped for. They shot for the moon and ended up with a disgruntled audience and confused fans. Just because two acts are heavy and use industrial or atypical standard rock elements does not mean they blend perfectly together. To illustrate this, Ministry went on tour to promote Al's upcoming album America Can't, yes that's the name, and to support was Chelsea Wolfe. See what I mean? Nothing alike in subject matter or tone, all of it seemed to be designed by image and nothing else. You have Ministry about to get super political with weird industrial remixes about Trump in 2018, and then you have Chelsea Wolfe trying to make this haunting, dark, ethereal atmosphere. These two do not equate to the presentation. or fan bases. Think about the old head fans of 90s Ministry first getting this cerebral nightmare of distortion guitars and singing from Chelsea Wolfe. Then, most likely are going to be confused by it no matter how great Wolfe is. Then on top of that, the old head Ministry fans get a bunch of Donald Trump sound effects with Al screaming over them. I like Ministry just fine, but that 2018 material was rough, and poor Chelsea Wolfe's style was not a good lead up to it. A good friend of mine who was also a concert photographer shot this tour in 2018 in New Jersey, and in her own words, "I know this concert happened, but I was confused the whole time and barely remember how it all worked." Yeah, that seems right. Go back to 1999 when nu metal was in full swing without any retrospective stigma, and even bands like Coal Chamber were doing huge on headline tours. Another group at the time going platinum and selling out venues? Insane Clown Posse. Why not put them together, is what someone actually said. However you are expecting this tour would have gone, I assure you it was worse. I mean, 99 was not exactly the calmest year for rock, but putting Violent J, Shaggy 2 Dope, and Des Fafara together on the road had to have sent up some red flags for somebody in 99. There's no way everyone thought this would work, especially fans of either group. According to drummer Mike Cox in an interview with MTV, Coal Chamber were not even allowed to do sound checks on their own co-headline show with the Clowns. After 2 shows of poor ticket sales, ICP tried to have Coal Chamber booted off in the prime of ICP's run. Coal Chamber threatened legal action. This was only 2 shows in. Coal Chamber would shortly after go on their own headline tour where they could run their own program on the road and not be disrupted or upstaged by ICP, according to the group. In the end, Juggalos got their tour, as did coal miners. I don't know what to call Coal Chamber fans. The 90s were wild in the alternative scene. Anything goes with any artist. At the top of the mountain in the mid-90s was Alanis Morissette, screaming about irony and Dave Coulier while angsty teenagers ate it up. You know what teenagers were not digging yet? Radiohead. That's kind of unfair though, because Radiohead in 96 were known for Pablo Honey, and that's it. OK Computer had not even happened yet. However, pairing the MTV teenage audience, who probably wasn't ready to zone out and listen to Tom York call himself a creep, yeah, early Radiohead supporting Top of the World Alanis is a choice. As the years rolled on, Radiohead beautifully reinvented their own style and proved their creativity. Morissette is still a legend, and I think on some Canadian currency, but both of these are on the same tour, and the mid-90s feels random, as if 2 90s names were chosen out of a hat and put on tour together. Johnny Greenwood of Radiohead told Rolling Stone, "My main memory of that tour is playing interminable hand organ solos to an audience full of quietly despairing teenage girls." Yeah, I'll bet that was a little awkward to be performing for teenage girls who wanted nothing more than for you to leave and get Alanis on faster. Rough break for Radiohead. The 2010s were an age for nostalgia. Remembering the past in good and bad ways was extremely marketable, and music also cashed in. In 2012, with David Lee Roth back in the lineup with 3 Van Halen family members, including Wolfgang, they all went on tour with Kool in the gang as support. Surprised by this one? To be fair, so were most people in 2012, but both bands were aware of the confusion and the odd pairing, even if both names were more than big enough to warrant doing whatever they wanted. Robert Kool Bell told Billboard in 2012, "We're not that worried about it. We had big hits in the 80s and so did they. They've been kind of like a party band on the rock side with their audience, and their audience is 60% female, and we have songs like Ladies Night and Celebration. Plus, we do a lot of international dates with Def Leppard, Meatloaf, Uriah Heep, Chicago, Elton John. A lot of people don't know that because they don't really see it." That all checks out, and the long-running Van Halen fan base wanting to hear the old Van Halen hits are going to be familiar with Celebration. No one complained at the shows, and it made for a fun night. Sometimes it's not as weird if it's nostalgic. They just need someone at the beginning to tell everyone, shut up and enjoy it. This tour counts as a weird rock tour by just about any definition you can think of. This was 97 also, where Primus was getting all their weird out, and Limp Bizkit was just starting to show how weird they could be. Am I overusing the word weird now? Because this tour deserves it. The Album of the Year tour was promoting Primus's latest album, while also having a young and hungry for attention Limp Bizkit trying to rile up the Primus crowds. Just saying that out loud proves the 90s were an unlawful, ridiculous time that defied reality and somehow still existed and was survivable. I do wonder what people wanting to hear Winona's Big Brown Beaver thought when they had to sit through Fred Durst and company covering George Michael's Faith. That's a real statement that many concert goers had to have experienced in '97. Someone tell me what that must have been like. To top it all off, the show opened with Power Man 5000 before Tonight the Stars Revolt released. The Album of the Year tour was a time capsule of 90s rock insanity, and it was just expected at the time. The only thing weirder is that this tour could still conceivably happen today. Doesn't that slightly worry anyone else? Doesn't that worry you? You can never say the Ramones didn't put in the work to make a name for themselves, and that included opening for big acts. Opening for Black Sabbath had the Ramones booed and thrown trash at, but on the flip side was in 1979 when the Ramones supported Toto. I'm not sure what reality this was, but there were concert promoters and labels that figured a New York punk band would do well opening for the ultra laid-back fans of Toto. The Ramones were already 4 albums in, and Toto were set in their groove of whatever Toto does besides Africa, because Africa was not even a song yet. According to Ramones manager Monty Melnick, the Toto crowd were so laid back by the time they worked out what was going on, the Ramones had played their set and were off. Yeah, I'll bet they were. Some of them were probably blitzed out of their minds before walking into the venue, not ready for the Ramones. It's an odd combination from conception to concert night. I'm not saying this would have been an awful show. I'm saying the Ramones' energy does not match what the headline band was going to deliver later on, sonically and visually. The Ramones and Toto do not mesh well. When I saw this lineup, I had to double and triple check, then I had to look up an MTV interview promoting it, and I still didn't believe it, but in 1997, U2 ran the PopMart Tour with opening act Rage Against the Machine. Yep, that's real. There is an argument for the protest movement in many of U2's early work, as well as the first 2 albums of Rage's material, which had happened by '97, but this was also '97 U2, which was when U2 changed gears and promoted the album Pop. You know, the dance and electronic version of U2. No raging at all. I can joke around, but it was not a joke to them. Tom Morello even did press interviews promoting the tour as a fan of U2.
Big fan of U2. I've been a fan for about 10 years, so we'll see if we can lure them from their tailgating parties to come in a little bit early. You don't come out with some kind of arty, kind of Grateful Dead jamming set when you open for U2. You gotta kind of rock the hits.
Okay, so we have U2's big hits mixed in with the new pop songs, and before that, Rage Against the Machine playing as heavy as possible in order to win over new U2 fans. On paper it looks weird, but as a result, I'm willing to bet it was an amazing show. Both bands knew how to go above and beyond live. Bono and Zach, though, that must have been some weird conversations in the back every night on tour. I just can't see them really seeing eye to eye on anything. I understand sometimes you need to fill in a support slot to fill out a tour, but that doesn't mean it should just go to anyone. Then again, most of the tours on this list sold well and made a fatty profit no matter how weird the lineup was. Drop a comment on what you think would be a crazy lineup. There are a ton out there that happened in and out of rock, and I know there will be some that people mention where I just won't feasibly believe it. Not calling you a liar, I'm saying my brain is not powerful enough. Finally, I just want to point out this video recording was hijacked by 2 animals this time. This is culprit number 1, who desperately wanted up while I was recording. He's being an innocent little boy right now. And if you heard any ruffling feedback in the first half of this video, it was culprit number 2 right here chewing on one of his toys and is now passed out because it was a long day of running around, playing, and sleeping.